Welcome to the History Collective, everybody. To receive the most recent news about ancient history and independent research from around the world, please subscribe now. You are aware that there are pyramids all over the world. In addition, despite the fact that archaeologists may have investigated the most prominent examples, we are only able to speculate on the number of others that have not yet been discovered. These examples could be located in the dense jungle of the Amazon rainforest, which has been swallowed up by water following the construction of dams, or perhaps even submerged on the continental shelf. This brings me to a frequently discussed topic in comments, and those are the Cuban pyramids, which were apparently captured by sonar in the early 21st century. I remember these pyramid-like structures getting attention long before I started the Ancient Architects channel. The pictures look impossible to refute. They could only be man-made pyramids, surely. So now in the year 2021, 20 years later, what happened to the lost pyramids of Cuba? This is the 2001 BBC News story titled "Lost City Found Beneath Cuban Waters," where it explains that researchers from a Canadian company used sonar equipment to find and film stone structures more than 2,000 feet, or 650 meters below sea level. The article explains that the underwater city was first spotted in the year 2000 when scanning equipment showed symmetrically organized structures like an urban development. In July 2001, exploratory robots, or smooth blocks of stone, and what appeared to be cooked granite reportedly confirmed this. I have no idea how they do it. Granite. Some of the blocks measured 10 feet in length and were stacked on top of each other, while others were isolated from the rest. The researchers stated that some of the blocks are circular while others are shaped like pyramids. It was estimated that the entire underwater structure was more than 6,000 years old. According to the researchers, it would have taken approximately 50,000 years for such structures to have submerged to such depths, which would place them in stark contrast to what we know about human civilization during the Ice Age. It appears that the government, National Geographic, and the National Museum did make a promise to look into the matter, but after that, the story went unnoticed and nothing else was said. The location of the sighting in question is off the coast of this peninsula in the Cuban province of Pinar del Rio, and in the early 21st century, many people were saying there could be the remnants of Plato's Atlantis, obviously made by a last advanced ancient civilization. There was a buzz of excitement for alternative and independent research. Yes, scientists and archaeologists are extremely cautious. During the Pleistocene era, where we see a series of ice ages, sea levels did drop significantly, but the maximum drop was only around 100 meters. 650 meters is too deep, and geological analysis has shown no evidence for a major cataclysm or substantial isostatic movements to account for man-made structures being missed deep under the ocean. A sea level rise of 650 meters is 550 meters lower than the lowest global sea levels that this region has seen in the last million years. This meant that none of these Cuban structures were above sea level before or during the Ice Age. The destruction and devastation would have been immense if the sinking were real, and geologists have not yet discovered evidence of a cataclysm, a natural disaster that plunged the city 650 meters into the abyss. As a result, if you were to look at the seafloor, you wouldn't find structures that were as flawless as they are today. Instead, they would have been destroyed by earth tremors and would be beyond repair. It all looks too perfect to be real. In fact, it's the nature of the structures that makes them impossible. There is apparently a nearby fault line and mud volcano. So maybe something did once happen in the region. But if it did, how did the structures remain intact? That part of it doesn't make much sense. The pictures and data are intriguing to say the least, but it's far from conclusive without further work. They are either a made-up hoax, is the data that's been badly handled. They could be man-made structures, or they have some natural origin, and we know that nature can create geometric shapes. Apparently, the team that made the discovery did raise funds and went back in 2004, but because of technical deficiencies of the submarine, they were unable to take pictures from the marine bottom, which does sound somewhat fishy, but not impossible to believe. After that, another announcement was made that they would return in 2005, this time with funding from National Geographic. After that, they remained silent, with the exception of an appearance on Ancient Aliens, which also does not lend credibility to the show. We must recognize that the 3D sonar images are not photographs before we get excited about them. They are made by computers and have a resolution that is limited to the side-scan sonar, which cannot actually tell us if structures have precise 90-degree angles. This is not a precise representation of what was observed, but rather a best-case scenario. The original 2D sonar images do show rectilinear features, but the 3D computer models do not show right-angled structures. In point of fact, the released data and images are far from conclusive. Some say there is some big conspiracy and nobody is allowed to investigate, but in reality, the data has likely been analyzed, and there is not enough there to warrant an expensive submarine investigation. And I think that's why the story died, simply due to a lack of evidence, and also a lack of explanation as to how such man-made structures can even be there. The media does jump on claims. They're supposedly backed up by science, but often the science hasn't been investigated thoroughly. My opinion is it all seems too unlikely to be real. Pictures like this are posted by alternative researchers, but without understanding them and without scrutiny. And so unless the original team can fund an underwater operation, and this time ensured the camera does work. Unlike what happened in 2004, I think this story can be safely parked at the bottom of the ocean. There are definitely lost pyramids in the Amazon rainforest, as seen by new LiDAR scans that can see through the dense forest. There are certainly submerged ruins off the coast of some countries, but I think that this story really is wishful thinking, and I would be very surprised if there are new developments. That is all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.